Many thanks, Sharon Mumanyi there, who has been following up on this development of drought in the country. And of course, here in studio, we have Benjamin Kiilu, who is the preparedness manager at the disaster department at the Kenya Red Cross. And in that report, of course, the plight of animals being highlighted very clearly. But Sharon Mumanyi also points out that, we have different sectors. We have the alarm level or the near alarm level. Just make it a bit clear for Kenyans what these demarcations mean.
Yeah, I think these are just levels that are used by the drought management authority of this country, really to know where we are with the different levels. Most of the countries now are at alarm, others are at alert, just indicating in terms of the severity of the drought. The drought is not the lack of water and food. The worst being just the normal, and the worst being what we call now the famine, that all indicators have gone. We have no water, no food, no survival, no rain and nothing. So from here we are going from alert, we go to alarm, and from there we go to emergency. Right. So emergency is when now things are not working, and famine is the last one, is total red. The whole country is now really at a famine stage. Right,
and now we've seen South Sudan, which has been the latest to declare a famine. But in that report, we've seen so many, it looks like some sort of animal cemetery there. So many animals have died. And I'm sure that there's also a number of lives in these regions that have been lost. How does Red Cross deal with that?
Yeah, I think, as I said, our intervention in this is a safety net. We come in a bit earlier, during the alarm and at the alert stage. Right. The animals are still there. The animals can hardly survive. The animals, what we call the rib area, now you can see around 3 or 4 ribs now. You can see those are the levels of emaciation. It's at that time when Kenya Red Cross, we come in, we buy the animals, what we call animal offtake. Right. We buy the animals, we give the cash to the farmers. They can now survive on that amount of money to buy their own food, and now for the next year. At least they have not lost what we call their livelihoods. But now coming back is we now we slaughter those animals and distribute to the families. In other areas, we may not get to those levels, and this is where we are seeing these the animals dying. And actually after that, we don't come in with any management issues. So ours is just before the emaciation levels are not that bad. That's when we buy.
And of course, for the humans, suffering this drought, it gets to a point where they now need medical intervention.
Yes, we have 3 angles into how we deal with the medical situations of these drought areas. One is we do medical outreach. You find some of the areas are not adequately covered with the medical facilities. The pastoralist nature is to move to where there is pasture. So sometimes as they move following pasture and water, they get out to the normal facilities that they use. So as Kenya Red Cross, we have been able to organize medical outreaches, getting doctors, nurses, drugs, and pharmacies and public health to move with those teams to those areas. Number 2 is we also do nutritional screening in various parts, so that we can now get the malnourished children and those elderly, lactating mothers, and that special need in terms of nutrition. And most of them now we link them to the existing health facilities for therapeutic feeding or for refer, for device and all that kind of thing. Then the other one is now just the general wash interventions, teaching them on hygiene practices within food handling, water handling, to avoid foodborne and waterborne diseases. Yes.
And that might have been quite difficult, I understand, for Red Cross, especially now in the wake of this doctor's strike.
Yeah, it is, and doctors really operate at level 3, 4, 5. Kenya Red Cross is heavily and strong and reliable at level 1. Right. Level 1 is where we are dealing with the community health workers, we are dealing with the community organizer response persons, and level 2, where we are dealing with now dispensaries and health centers, and that's where we come heavily. When we come to specialized treatment, especially when we are talking of medical evacuation, we have our ambulances that can handle that part of the portion. If it comes to now critical, maybe surgical procedures and all that, we have Kenya Red Cross volunteer doctors who, if that need comes, will be called upon and they will now use either the government facilities or mission facilities with support of Kenya Red Cross to undertake those specialized treatment for that. So basically, yeah, and yes and no.
Right,
yes.
all right. Now, a lot has been said about this drought and the country's preparedness towards it. Many feeling that the country was quite flat-footed, so to speak. But the thing is, the cycles of drought kept getting shorter and shorter, and it keeps happening over and over again. It stops becoming a disaster. You know, it becomes something that should have had early warning systems and should have had better preparedness from concerned authorities and citizens at large. But how now do we break this cycle?
Yeah, I think basically this is now a whole subject of the global warming and the climate changes, and you know the rains coming short. We are seeing change in terms of even rainfall distribution over time and space. You get the aqua millimeters that is required, but then it comes in 2 days.
Right.
Not enough to sustain crop production. We see some rains that are saying, even in other areas of this country, when we say no more rain, according to agriculturists, then that no more rain in that area of Wajir is not even sufficient to support crop production. So the aspect of the dry spell and the expel, these are now the sea surface temperatures and the complicated issues about the global warming. How to deal with this is just mitigation and preparedness, and the country has put up measures. We are in collaboration with the ministry, with the government, both national and local, to look at what are some of the mitigative measures we can put in place. We have had joint ventures with the county government of Baringo in trying to come up with water interventions. We have gone into a joint venture with the county government of Taita Taveta, county government of Kilifi, where we are saying as a government and as a Kenya Red Cross, can we try to do this water rehabilitation? Can we do this water construction in this area? Of
because it has worked in some areas.
It has worked, even in other areas where we are talking of the strategic balls. These balls are not used normally. They are just laid there. But during the dry spell, when the passeries move into those areas, we just rehabilitate that and just equip, and the water is running. So some of these things are working. But again, there is much more needed to be done. The population is growing, technology is changing, politics are coming into play, and there's so much into that is becoming a mix. So the question is, how much more do we need to do?
All right.
How much more strategic water reserves do we need to do? Are we embracing technology in food production? For example, Kenya Red Cross, a few years ago, we went all around the country promoting the use of greenhouses. Most of these greenhouses have taken off with great production in schools, in women group, in organized communities, where they are now able to produce their own vegetables in areas where it was not known. Our WADA project is very Kaikol project in areas where farmers were pastoralists, but now they are agriculturists.
And it's working, because there's been a lot of complication on how difficult it is to get somebody who's been a pastoralist all their lives and then try to change that for them. So they seem to be at a crossroads now.
Yeah, we have seen the issue is we demonstrate it works. How to sustain that and to scale up that is when we are calling now all the other stakeholders, both the national government, the county government, the faith-based organization, and all developmental partners, really to scale up, because we are proved somebody who was a farmer, who was a pastoralist, has left the issue of herding cattle and now is doing farming.
Successfully.
But now we need successfully. So we only need more now to come on board and jump into the ship and scale up these farming. So we are, as I say, the question was, how are we being prepared on this cyclic drought and flood? For example, if the rain just comes now, there is no cover, there is no vegetation cover. So what do we expect with the heavy downpour? Flooding. So you are doing a drought operation and then jump into a flood operation. So this kind of a mix is what now, as a country, we are now trying to be prepared. And that's why we are calling all stakeholders of goodwill now to look at now, let's not wait for the drought. Can we start some of these projects, agricultural projects, ahead of time? Can we look at some of these strategic water reserves ahead of time? Can we do groundwater harvesting? Can we do service water harvesting? Can we do rainwater catchment in the roof catchment and draw catchment? Really, that can be done for domestic use. Then the underground and even the service can now be done for agricultural. So it's just investing and investing and investing. And I can tell you, is huge investment.
And I like that you brought in the issue of technology in agriculture, because we have biting drought in some regions, and then there's some regions where farmers are crying that you know, their agricultural produce is going to a waste because there's nobody to buy the surplus.
Yeah, I think this is a mix of where is the crop and where is it needed. The issue of now the infrastructure, which I think the country has done well in terms of improving. How do you move to the market? Where is the market doing? And this is now the issue of, this is the tomato. It is being produced in point A and is now needed in point B. How do you connect those? You know, is the right hand talking to the left hand? If they talk together, then we'll have all these kind of interchanges and in a mixing of productivity.
All right, and just before we wind up, so the first Kenyans for Kenya fund drive, how much did it raise?
1 billion in total, but 700 in cash and 300 was in kind.
Wow, and that was in a period of how long?
That was a period of 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
And so this, the current Kenyans for Kenya drive, also seeking to raise 1 billion shillings. How long has it been in operations?
Yeah, for now we are on the second month.
Second month.
Yeah.
So is progress good? Are we
progress
likely
is
to
good. Progress
hit
is
target?
good. We are likely to hit the target. We are only asking Kenyans really to come up strongly again so that we can really save the lives. Because if we don't save the lives now, then we can't wait for the 6 months and then we are getting all the funding and then we are going back and we are finding the children maybe have lost their lives because they have no food, they have no water, they have no access to medical facilities.
All right, great. So let's have a recap then of how Kenyans can take part in this initiative, Kenyans for Kenya Fund drive by the Kenya Red Cross, seeking to raise 1 billion shillings to mitigate the effects of a drought in the country. So first we begin with the Adopt a Family, Embrace a Family.
Embrace a Family. This is 3,000 Kenya shillings that we expect will take care of a family for 1 month. You can embrace as many families as, for example, I personally, as an individual, I embraced 5 families for 1 month.
And you know you're feeding them for a whole month.
For a whole month. Then I'm sure some 5 families somewhere in Turkana will get sufficient food for 1 month.
That's
and that was me
shillings only.
And that was me as an individual. So I'm calling every other kind as an individual, just wake up that morning and just make that contribution of 3,000 for 1 family. You can say you are doing 1 family for 6 months. That is 18,000. You are sure that family is taken care of for 6 months. You can do 10 families for 2 months. So it's you to choose as a Kenyan, how many families are you going to target? Then there is a skip a meal. Not a bad idea, a very good idea, nutrition-wise, health-wise, you can always skip a meal, and that money goes...
Especially for those who are constantly dieting.
Yes, especially for those who are watching their weight and watching their health. It's also good to do that. And please, if you can skip that meal with the highest budget, then that will also make a good contribution.
So decide that day to have a high-end meal, go have a pizza or something. So you skip that and send it to Red Cross.
Exactly, and then send it to Kenya Red Cross. There's always a pay bill number through the M-Pesa. Our pay bill number is 10,000, very simple. You can always get that number and then you can make your contribution. Anytime you make your contribution and all this will go in saving lives.
So those are the only 2 that people can contribute for right now?
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Benjamin Kiilu, the Preparedness Manager in the Disaster Management Operations Department at the Kenya Red Cross, which is working with Kenyans to mitigate the effects of drought in the country. And that conversation brings us to a break here on Weekend Express. Don't go too far. When we come back, we delve into something a little interesting. How often do you exercise and what modes of exercise do you use? Do stay tuned for Weekend Express for that.